Hi, everyone. I'm Renee Lamb, Assistant Professor at Virginia Commonwealth University in the United States, founder of the social enterprise Soulier, and former U.S. Fulbright Scholar and Visiting Professor at Helwan University in Cairo, Egypt. I am excited to be here with you guys for Cairo Garment Week and to talk about how to build your own fashion brand. So, what are we going to talk about in this brief 15-minute lecture? We'll look at the three essential questions that you have to ask if you're going to create any brand, especially a fashion brand. We'll also look at three examples of American denim companies and talk about what makes each of them unique and how do they tell their own unique brand story. So let's start with the essentials. Here we go. If you're starting any brand, including a fashion brand, you have to be able to answer these three fundamental questions. The first one is, who are you? Now, this will vary depending on whether you're a single entrepreneur, a larger company, but the basic components of it will be the same. And the tool, the essential tool that you'll want to use here is called a unique value proposition. You'll often see that abbreviated with the acronym, a UVP. The second question you're going to want to ask is, who is your customer? And this is a really hard one and a question that you'll have to continually come back to as your brand and your company grow. The essential tool that you'll use here to answer this question is called a brand persona, and we'll look at an example in a moment. The third question you're going to have to answer is, what is your brand relationship built upon? So this is going to get tricky and soft and maybe a little complicated because it looks at values, beliefs, ideals, promises. The tool we're going to use here to answer this question is called a brand promise. So these are our three essential questions we always have to ask when starting any brand. Who are you? Who is your customer? And what is the brand relationship built upon? Let's walk through each of these individually, talk about them a little bit more, and look at an example for each. That first question, who are you? It is deceptively simple and such a complicated question to answer. Some great places to start here to try and dig into this question and get to a really solid answer are to think about, do you, as the founder of your brand, or you can think about your company as a whole, do you have any defining characteristics? What are your strengths? What are you passionate about? Does your company have a mission statement that is important to them? Do you personally, as the founder, have a passion or a mission that you're passionate about that comes out within the company? What industry segment do you speak to? This becomes really important because it will impact how you speak to your customer. These are just places to start. If you're really unsure about where to go, a great thing I love to do with my students is to have them do what's called a word chart or a word brainstorm. And I'll ask them to sit down and write down a blank piece of paper and a pencil to write down anywhere from 50 to 100 words that define any part of them. So any word that comes to mind, it can be their favorite color, their favorite song, their favorite place they visited, something they do every day, a person that's very important to them, anything and everything they can think of that might define them, I ask them to put on this piece of paper. I also usually ask them to go out and ask others who know them and to collect their words and add them to this word chart or this word brainstorm. Then, from that collection of words, you can begin to take out the few that feel the most important, with the goal of getting down to only 3 key words. That's your goal. When you're thinking about this question of who are you? Who are you as a founder? Who are you as a brand? Who are you as a company? I want you to be continually asking, what are my 3 keywords. If I could only define my company, my brand in 3 words, what would they be? Again, great places to start, thinking about characteristics or strengths, your industry segment, your mission. Create that word chart and see which 3 words really stick with you. Those are going to be your keywords. They're going to be true throughout the life of your company. You're going to want to hold on to them and use them as a reference for every brand image or touch point that you create going forward. So in addition to your keywords, the other thing that you would create here is what's called a unique value proposition. This talks about who you are and what you uniquely have to offer to your customer. So as you can imagine, this is going to include those keywords. And when we look at our American examples, we'll look at some examples of these keywords as applied to real American denim brands. So already start thinking, what would be your 3 keywords for your company? How could you put them into a phrase that describes who you are and what you uniquely have to offer to your customer? If I was going to come up with a unique value proposition right now that talks about who I am as a presenter in relation to you guys and this talk, I might say, I am a professor, an educator, and an international traveler. And I have extensive experience in both the fashion industry and branding. And I'm excited about sharing the tools, tips, and best practices that I've learned with people all over the world. So that could be my own personal unique value proposition. And we'll see some more in a moment. So question number 2, thinking about who is your customer. This becomes so important because you have to know who you're talking to. A brand is a relationship between the company and the customer. And a relationship always has to have at least 2 people in it. So we've already said, who are you? And you've already found your keywords. But the other half of the brand, the other half of that relationship is, who is your customer? If you don't have a customer, you don't have a brand. So this requires research, and unfortunately, I mean both desk research, so looking at industry reports, seeing what the trends are, seeing who's shopping where and how. It also means primary research, or getting out into the field and talking to your customer, figuring out where your customer is, going to meet them there, and then talking to them, asking them questions about what do they like? What do they value? If you want to start a denim brand, find people who are wearing denim that's interesting to you, and then talk to them. Ask them why they selected the pieces that they did. Notice if they mention something like price or design or fit or style, or maybe another relationship, like word of mouth. Maybe their brother loves this pair of jeans and they've always wanted to be like their brother, so it's what they wore. Go out and ask and talk to them. It's the most important way to gather information. It's going to be your most valuable information. So thinking about both demographics, which are those traits that we can put numbers to. So thinking about the age of your customer, the location of your customer. Are they urban? Are they in a city environment like Cairo? Or are they more rural? How does that impact what they might need? Is there a gender difference? Is there an education level? Are you speaking to university students? Are you speaking to people who never went to university? What about income level? That's going to become really important, especially when you're thinking about product development and price point and what's going to be feasible for your customer. Then you also want to think about what we call psychographics, and these deal with those softer qualities that we can't really easily put a number to or a box to. So these are things like likes and dislikes, lifestyle, values, preferences, desires, fears, and passions. These are the types of things that sometimes you can find in an industry report, but that are going to be so much easier to get a handle on by actually talking to your customer. In all of this customer research, you want to be asking yourself, what is the unmet customer need that I see or that I hear? What is the thing the customer is saying that they need, but they can't find? Maybe it's a great fitting pair of jeans. Maybe you find that there's a whole segment of the population that isn't served and doesn't buy jeans for whatever reason it is. I think about this with myself a lot because when I was younger, I'm very short. I'm only about 5 feet tall. And so when I was younger, it was very hard for me to find jeans. All of the jeans were too long. So finding a denim company that offered different inseam lengths was game changer for me. I no longer had to roll my jeans or try and tailor my jeans myself. I could just go to the store and buy jeans that fit. It was an unmet customer need that, wow, when they got it right, changed my world, especially as an American. You can imagine how important my blue jeans are to me. So the tool that we want to use here to answer this question about who is your customer is something called an ideal customer avatar. You'll also see it called an ideal customer persona or a brand persona. And what this is a slightly creepy, fictitious description of your customer. So thinking about writing the story of your customer in the same detail and depth that you would if I asked you to tell me about your nearest and dearest friend. Think about all of the details you could tell me about your nearest and dearest friend. And I want you to speak about your customer in the exact same way. Let's look at an example really quick. So this is one that I pulled off of the internet. It's from a site called dribble.com, which has free templates for you to use and to access. This is one of their user persona templates, one of their ideal customer avatar templates. So they have named her Jane Doe. And you can see here, they give us those really simple demographic data points like her age, her job title, is she single or is she married, where is she located? But then they also give us some of those more complicated elements. What are her pain points? These could be unmet customer needs. They could be fears. What are her needs? What are her passions? What are her goals? They tell us about her personality, and it all gets summed up in one short paragraph at the beginning that tells us exactly who Jane is. So when you're thinking about answering that question number 2, who is your customer? I want you to get this specific and this creepy, right down to a name. So that's question number 2. We've already looked at who are you? Who is the customer? Now let's look at what is the brand relationship built upon. This may or may not be a difficult question to answer. What we're looking for here is an identification of the overlapping values, experiences, product functions that your customer needs and you're excited about offering. So in the same way, right? We said brands are a relationship. They have to have two different people involved, the company and the customer. And so this question is asking, what are they talking about? What is that relationship built on? So a way to make this more personal would be for me to ask you, if you think about your best friend, and you were going to tell me about your relationship with your best friend, I might ask you, when you guys go to the cafe and share a cup of tea, what do you usually talk about? Do you talk about your children? Do you talk about your classes you're taking at university? Do you talk about your family? Do you talk about work? What do you have in common that becomes the foundation of your relationship? Just as you would do that with your best friend, I want you to think about that here when you're thinking about starting your own fashion brand. Think about what is the foundation of the relationship between the customer and the company. The tool that we can use here is what's called a brand promise. And this is what you promise to consistently deliver to your customer. I'm going to say it again. The brand promise is what you as a company promise to consistently deliver to your customer. Get this right and stick to it, and the world is your oyster. Get this wrong, and your brand won't work. So, constantly asking, what do you promise to consistently deliver to your customer? And again, similar to your keywords, the answer to this should remain relatively consistent throughout the life of your company. Of course, brands grow and develop just as we grow and develop. But just like you are the same person that you were when you're 5 in so many ways, your brand as it is right now will have those really fundamental core values. They will still be the same in 15 and 20 years. How they get translated to the customer might change, but those core values will remain with you throughout the life of the company. So to answer question number 3, what is the brand relationship built upon? Think about, what do you promise to consistently deliver to your customer? Let's look at an example. So here is a British denim company called Hoot Denim Company. And if we're thinking about what do they promise to consistently deliver to their customer, it's right here in their slogan. We are makers. So what they're promising to their customer is that when they purchase a pair of blue jeans from them, they're not purchasing a random pair of jeans that was made offshore in Bangladesh or somewhere else not related to where the customer is. What they're buying is a pair of jeans made within the company from whom they're purchasing. And you can see that in this imagery from their website. So right here, you go to their website and you see right at the top, shop made to order. A company that's promising to be the maker, that's promising that craftsmanship element. It makes sense that at the very top of their website, you would be able to order a made to order piece of pants. That's part of the brand promise. That product offering reinforces and strengthens their brand promise. So this image was taken from their own website. You can see it down there at the bottom. Please, I recommend go check them out. Beautiful company. They have a couple great videos on their site that can let you dig deeper into them as a brand. So there we go. There are 3 questions you have to answer to build your fashion brand. Who are you? Who's the customer? And what's the brand relationship built on? Now let's move on to look at 3 American denim company examples. We can see how these companies have translated all 3 of those questions into real life working successful brands. The first one I wanted to share with you is a company that I have watched and really liked for a long time. It's called Paige Denim. If we were going to try and identify the 3 keywords for Paige Denim, we would say design, everyday luxury, and effortless chic. You can see those elements in the imagery here. The imagery is very clean. It feels very luxurious when you look at how their store is laid out. There's a certain luxury feeling to it and how the racks are spaced out. You have space between the hangers, making each piece feel precious. You have beautiful light, beautiful big windows. When you look at the image of the model to the left, you see that effortless chic coming forward. Her hair is down, it's lightly curled. She looks beautiful and put together, but she does not look overly made up. She's not wearing huge jewelry. She's wearing simple gold jewelry. She has on makeup, but her face isn't overly adorned. She's just simply beautiful and effortlessly chic. I want to stress these 3 keywords and who Paige Denim is as a company come directly from the founder's experience, Paige Adams Geller, from her experience as a fit model in the denim industry. in Los Angeles. So of course, a founder who was working as a fit model would have these elements of fit and design as one of the pillars, one of the keywords for who her brand and who her company is. Paige Denim is also from Los Angeles in California, the home of Hollywood, a place where this idea of being very luxurious, having a lot of money, but not necessarily showing it, is very important culturally to how they work and exist within the world. That LA heritage, that background of the founder, they all come out in these three keywords and in how this brand gets represented. So that's example number one. Let's look at example number two. Here is Levi's, your quintessential American denim brand. If we were going to pick three keywords for Levi's, the three that I would pick would be Americana, casual, and the everyman. And these words get exemplified. You can see them represented in these pictures. To the left, we have the picture of the three people lounging casually on some pillows on the ground. They're wearing t-shirts and jeans. They're not posing or modeling, they're lounging in a very casual sort of way, in the same way that they're wearing their jeans. The everyman, that comes directly from Levi Strauss's history as creator of blue jeans during the California Gold Rush in the mid-19th century. That idea of the jeans being an everyday worker's garment is fundamental to who Levi's is and how they do jeans. Also, quintessentially American. Again, going back to the gold rush, that idea, that American ideal of going out and finding your fortune, of independence, so Americana, all wrapped up within that Levi's red label right there. These images are taken from the Levi's site, accessed in January of 2024. Please feel free to go to the site and poke around some more if you are interested. So let's look at our third American denim company. Very different from the first two. Remember Paige, effortless chic, everyday luxury, fundamentals for design. Levi's, Americana, casual, and the everyman. And lastly, let's look at Ed Hardy. You can already see very different look, very different feel, very different customer. This is not the same customer that's shopping at Paige. This customer is artistic. They are an individual. Individuality is very important to them. It would be one of their key values. And they would consider themselves as a rebel or working outside of cultural norms. This brand image, these three keywords come directly from the founder, Ed Hardy's background as a tattoo artist. So he was one of the most reputable, very first American tattoo artists. He made tattooing an art form. And so then he took that and created from it an apparel company. And because of that history, because of that background, there's a certain edginess to it. And you can see that in both the logo, the script of that logo, again, echoing back to the idea of a tattoo, that hand-drawn logo. But also on the product, you can see the imagery and the drawing on both her denim jacket and the sweatshirt on the gentleman behind. Very different feel. Very different feel, artistic, individual, and rebel. So there we go. Three examples of three American denim brands, all doing very similar products, but in a very different way for a very different customer. So how can you take this and run with it? When you're thinking about starting your own fashion brand, or if you already have your own fashion brand and you're wondering how to develop it and strengthen it, I want you to think about starting simple. What is your minimum viable brand? Get really clear on your keywords, on your customer, and on your brand promise, or what it is that you promise to consistently deliver to your customer every time they come to your company. Think about, what are your customer touch points? How do you reach your customer? And how can you make those things as impactful as possible? Think about how can you build trust? Remember, I said a brand is a relationship between a company and a customer. Relationships don't exist without trust. So everywhere you interact with the customer, ask yourself, how can I build trust here? Answer your 3 essential questions, as we mentioned before. And with that, you'll have a successful fashion brand. As you're going through the years, remember that a fashion brand is an ever-evolving relationship between the company and the customer. Be really clear on what's non-negotiable for you. And with everything else, be willing to recreate and to pivot as needed. Thank you guys so much. It's been my pleasure and my honor to be here with you all for Cairo Garment Week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found this information useful. If you have any questions or feedback for me, again, I'm Renee Lamb, Assistant Professor at Virginia Commonwealth University. My email is right here, rslam@vcu.edu. I would love to hear from you. And if this video was helpful, please share it with those who you think might find it interesting or inspiring. And thank you so much for listening.